She pounded on the marble door, her contractions 6 minutes apart, her voice cracking through the storm. "Damien, please." And inside he sipped his whiskey, staring at the silent screen as the cameras showed her breaking. The doctor's voice was kind, but it wasn't enough. "You're 37 weeks, Lana. It could be any day now. Do you have your hospital bag ready?" She nodded weakly, eyes scanning the cold white wall behind the woman in scrubs. She had everything packed, 2 duffel bags, one for her, one for the baby, and they sat untouched in the hallway of the penthouse, behind a door that now beeped red every time she swiped her access card. The lock had changed. The baby kicked again, and she flinched. It wasn't pain that startled her. It was the realization that there might be no one there when her water broke, no one to hold her hand, no one to whisper it would be okay. Welcome back, my beautiful friends and family. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story, just as interesting and intriguing as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. She used to believe in forever, in Damien. Now, she believed in emergency contacts. Her fingers trembled as she texted the car service herself. The driver knew not to ask anymore. They all did. When a billionaire's wife starts making her own calls, people notice. The waiting room was full of women with partners. One rubbed his wife's swollen feet. Another brought iced tea with crushed lemon. Lana wrapped her arms around her own belly, swallowing the ache. Have you ever had to face something terrifying alone? What got you through it? Drop your story in the comments. Someone might need it more than you think. There were 10 monitors in Damien Voss's office. None of them played the news. They played his properties, elevators, driveways, boardrooms, bedrooms, penthouse hallway. He saw her, Lana, standing outside the door again, belly huge, posture stubborn, one hand on the wall, one hand on her stomach. "Sir," his assistant said cautiously, "there's a call from your CFO. They're asking about the foundation transfer." He didn't blink. "Tell them to proceed." He watched the monitor as Lana turned and slowly walked toward the elevator. She didn't knock this time, didn't beg. That rattled him more. He leaned back, swirling the amber in his glass. It was morning. Who cared? He hadn't slept since Sunday. There were reasons. He had reasons. She'd been reckless. Spoke to that journalist. Dug into the accounts he had warned her to leave alone. He wasn't a man to be tested. But now she was quiet, and that silence scratched at his chest. His phone buzzed, an encrypted alert from the security system. Access denied. Attempt logged. He stared at it, cold, untouched, and then deleted it. The apartment wasn't hers. Technically, legally, emotionally, it never had been. She rented a modest unit now downtown. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, no staff, no more chefs making plated food she barely touched. Just her and the baby growing inside her. She curled up on the second-hand couch that smelled faintly of old cinnamon and clean laundry. She clutched the knit blanket her aunt had mailed from Montana. The baby moved again, like a nudge, or maybe a warning. She whispered, "I'll do better. For you. I promise." She never thought she'd raise a child alone. She thought if she loved Damien enough, he would soften, that the icy shell was just armor. But love doesn't melt everything. Sometimes it just burns the person giving it. He stood by the window high above the city, watching headlights crawl like insects. The house was silent, too silent. Her voice didn't echo down the halls anymore. No humming while she watered plants. No scent of her favorite vanilla tea in the air. He'd told himself it was better this way, cleaner. But it wasn't clean. The cameras still showed her. Outside, that morning and days before. And before that, pregnant, waiting. He had locked her out. The thought returned again, more violent than before. He had locked her out while she was in labor. But that hadn't happened. Yet. He didn't know when it would come. But when it did, he'd know, right? Lana stands in her small new apartment, packing a small zippered bag and placing it by the door. Across the city, Damien watches a black screen on his monitor where the feed used to show her outside his penthouse. No one says anything. But the storm is coming. It started with pressure. Then the wet warmth soaked through her old t-shirt. She blinked at it, dazed. Her body had been whispering for days, but now it screamed. The baby was coming. The contractions were close, closer than they should have been for comfort, too close to waste time calling a taxi or fumbling with a hospital app. She didn't even grab the carefully packed bag by the door. She just ran, down the stairs into the street, past the doorman who looked up too slowly. She waved him off with a strangled, "I'm fine," though her voice cracked like glass. But she wasn't fine. The night air bit hard against her damp leggings. Sweat curled at the base of her spine. Her hands gripped her belly, then the railing. She rang the penthouse buzzer. Nothing. Again. "Damien, open the door," she said, breathless. She leaned her head against the cool metal. "I don't care about the fight. I need you. Please." A long pause. She pressed her palm to the fingerprint scanner. It blinked red. Access denied. She gasped, pain curling in her lower back like barbed wire. One hand braced the wall. She tried the card again. Red. And again. Red. Tears mixed with sweat. She started pounding. He stood 5 feet from the door, watching the screen. She was there, drenched in sweat, breathing in ragged bursts. Her hands slapped the biometric pad over and over, like she could convince it with desperation. She was in labor. Her cries weren't loud, they weren't dramatic. They were quiet, human. "Damien," she whispered. "I'm scared." And still he didn't move. Because if he did, if he opened that door, he would crumble. And he didn't know how to hold something this fragile, this real. He thought locking the door would keep the chaos out. Instead, it locked the monster in. Her knees buckled. A contraction hit hard, like a wave slamming bone to brick. She screamed, finally, loudly. The night concierge heard it from the desk downstairs and started dialing emergency services. Lana pressed her face to the metal door. "I loved you," she whispered. "I loved you even when you were ice, even when you didn't know how to say it back. I held on for this baby, and you let me rot out here like trash." The buzzer light blinked once. Blue. She flinched, hopeful, then red, again. The ER nurses had been angels, but she still shook as they wheeled her in, pale and in shock. Her hand reached for someone who wasn't there. There were no packed bags, no Damien, just contractions and cold IVs. The doctor asked if there was anyone to call. She said, "No," then corrected herself. "Yes, my lawyer. Call my lawyer." He didn't sleep. Couldn't. He stood barefoot in his silent hallway, staring at the pad that had rejected her. The silence in the apartment buzzed. He picked up his phone, finally, typed in her name. No response. He tried the camera app for the hallway feed, offline. She was gone, not just physically, gone. He turned off every monitor, poured another drink, and didn't drink it. The baby was here. She was perfect, tiny, breathing, innocent. Lana held her with trembling arms, her body stitched and bruised, her heart torn like paper. No flowers, no calls, no father in the room, just soft infant breathing and a sea of white walls. But for the first time in months, she felt something new bloom in her chest, not heartbreak. This was the moment something cracked open in Lana, not just her body, but her soul. Damien had left her alone in labor. Now he would learn what it felt like, to be locked out. Lana stares down at her daughter, a soft smile playing at the corner of her lips. Her phone screen glows beside her. Transfer power of attorney. Confirmed. Freeze business accounts. Processing. She whispers to the baby, "Let's change the locks, love." The stitches pulled when she moved. The hospital bed still smelled like antiseptic and fear. But she didn't cry anymore. She had a private recovery room now, thanks to an emergency court order under her maiden name, her real name. Mrs. Voss meant nothing to her anymore. The last time she wore that name, she was pounding on a locked door with his child clawing its way into the world. Now, she was Lana Greer. Again. And this time she wasn't alone. She had a daughter with the kind of lungs that demanded to be heard. At 4:37 p.m., the nurse came in with papers. "Your legal team left this for you," she said gently. "Are you sure you want to sign without waiting to hear from him?" Lana didn't look up. "He heard me the night I was screaming outside his door," she said. "He made his choice." Pen scratched paper. Sharp, decisive. Freeze on all shared assets. Amend emergency power of attorney. Initiate investigation into account discrepancies. Restrict building access for Damien Voss. A war in a signature. He scrolled through the frozen screen. Access denied. The words glared in bold red type. His bank, his company accounts, even the backup portfolios in Dubai. Lana had done it. She'd found a way to freeze his empire. "Sir," his CFO was sweating through his pressed shirt. "The trust fund distributions are—" "Pause everything," Damien said, teeth clenched. "Temporarily." His mind wasn't on the money. Not fully. It was on her, Lana, what she must have gone through, what he had allowed. But he couldn't afford guilt now. Not with board members sniffing for blood and lawyers circling like vultures. His PR rep wanted a statement. He refused. "What would I even say?" he muttered. "Sorry I left the woman I swore to protect screaming on the doorstep with our child inside her." No, that wasn't Damien Voss. Damien Voss didn't bleed in public. She sat in silence while the baby fed against her chest. One tiny hand curled near Lana's necklace. A simple silver charm, a gift from Damien long before wealth poisoned everything. The soft weight of her child grounded her. But at night, when her daughter finally slept, Lana sometimes curled into herself and let the silence swallow her. She missed him, not the man from the camera feeds, the one who made pasta at 2 a.m., who danced with her barefoot in the kitchen, who pressed his palm to her belly the first time the baby kicked and whispered, "She's real." But that man, she realized finally, he wasn't coming back, if he ever existed at all. The penthouse was still cold, too quiet. He deleted Lana's number 5 times only to type it again. He tried to justify it. She pushed too hard, asked too many questions, broke confidentiality. He tried to explain. She leaked documents. She compromised the family trust. I had to draw a line. He even convinced his lawyer to start gathering material to defend his reputation, just in case. But none of it dulled the echo of her voice from that night. "I loved you, even when you were ice." He saw her every time he closed his eyes, not on their wedding day, not in their honeymoon villa in Greece. He saw her outside the door, begging, and him, doing nothing. News alert. Billionaire's wife files emergency orders amidst labor abandonment rumors. Blogs were spinning. A grainy photo of Lana being wheeled into the hospital went viral. Anonymous staff leaked that she arrived alone, bleeding, pale, in shock. He locked her out, while she was in labor. The quote circled the media like blood in water, and Damien, he did nothing. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know how to feel without shattering. She sat with her lawyer over takeout containers and infant whimpers. "He's not going to fight the freeze?" Lana asked, eyebrows raised. The lawyer smiled, tired. "He can't. You locked the accounts tighter than Fort Knox. He didn't even blink when we served him." That unsettled her more than if he had fought. He was always cold. But this silence, it wasn't cold, it was hollow, and that meant only one thing. He was breaking, and somewhere deep inside her. That still hurt. A shot of 2 silences, Lana watching her baby sleep, heart aching behind calm eyes. Damien sitting in a multi-million-dollar penthouse with the lights off, watching a blank security screen that used to show her face, both pretending they don't still care. Both building walls instead of knocking. The heels were a mistake. Not because she couldn't walk in them. She'd been walking tall since Damien first tried to shrink her. but because the courthouse's fourth-floor elevator jerked halfway between levels, trapping her and the worst person she could possibly imagine in a steel box, Damien Voss. She didn't see him step in behind her until the doors had closed, didn't notice his cologne until the air grew tight, didn't hear the first breath he drew until the lights flickered and the elevator groaned, then froze, then silence, then her voice flat. "You've got to be kidding me." He hadn't seen her in person since that night, not on a monitor, not in a hallway or behind glass. Here she was real, holding a slim leather folder, wearing black, radiating something sharp. Anger, power, pain. She didn't look at him directly. Damien took a small breath. It felt like inhaling broken glass. He spoke first. "You changed your hair." She didn't respond. He tried again. "Lana?" "No." She didn't raise her voice. Just shut him down like a judge slamming a gavel. The silence after was so loud he thought it might crack the walls. She refused to let him see her tremble, or the panic swirling in her chest, or the sweat prickling behind her knees. She was stuck in a box with the man who locked her out while she was in labor, and he was standing there like the past didn't scream from every panel of steel around them. "I don't want to talk to you," she said softly, arms folded. "I know." "Then don't." He hesitated. "I never meant to hurt you." She finally turned to him, eyes blazing. "You didn't mean to leave me outside bleeding. You didn't mean to shut off my access. You didn't mean to ignore every single call. That's a lot of not meaning for one man." Damien swallowed. It was the first time he'd heard her voice crack, and not from weakness, from rage. A younger Lana, barefoot in their shared bed, laughing. Damien's hand on her belly, feeling the baby's first kick. His face, soft, younger, before fear calcified into control. "I'll protect you both," he'd whispered. Lana's laugh had been sleepy. "From what?" "You're already paranoid." He'd kissed her forehead. "From myself." "You think I don't know I failed you?" Damien said, voice low now. Lana snorted. "Failed?" She faced him fully now, something in her chest finally snapping. "You buried me. I needed a partner, not a guard dog. I needed a father for my child, not a tyrant who shuts doors and signs silences." Damien leaned against the elevator wall, covering his face. She'd never seen him look tired before. He looked broken, but that wasn't her problem anymore, or at least that's what she told herself. "Ma'am? Sir? We're going to get you out shortly. Maybe another 10-15 minutes. The speaker crackled. Lana sat on the floor, crossing her arms. She hated the way her body still remembered his nearness, his scent, his presence. She hated more that part of her missed it. "You don't get to speak first," she said suddenly. Damien blinked. "What?" "You don't get to start the apology, or pretend we're okay just because we're locked in together." "I didn't think we were okay," he whispered. "I haven't thought we were okay since I watched the hallway feed that night, and did nothing." Lana closed her eyes slowly. That night. The sound of the scanner blinking red, the cold against her legs, the baby coming, her heartbeat slowing. "You watched?" "I couldn't move." "That's not love, Damien." "I know." They sat in silence for another 5 minutes, no longer enemies, just wounded, trapped ghosts of who they used to be. "I named her Nova," Lana said quietly. Damien blinked. "Nova?" "She's light, even when it's darkest." He closed his eyes. "She sounds like you." Lana didn't respond, but the silence was different now. The door creaked, a rush of fresh air. The technician smiled, oblivious. "All good now." Damien stood first, turned, held out a hand. Lana looked at it, didn't take it, but didn't slap it away either. She walked past him head high, Lana walking away down the courthouse hallway, folder in hand. Damien still standing in the elevator, staring at his empty palm. Neither of them spoke a goodbye, but both knew. The silence now meant something different, something shifting. The custody paperwork was thick, not contested yet, but they had to prepare in case Damien fought back. "I want primary," Lana said. "He can visit, supervised if needed." Her voice was steady, but her fingers trembled as she held the pen. Her lawyer nodded. "You're protected now, financially, legally, but not emotionally. That part she had to do alone." Damien stood in the dark. He couldn't sleep. Not after the elevator. Not after seeing Lana's face, up close, unfiltered, unflinching. Nova. She named their daughter Nova. He wrote it down in a notebook like a man scribbling a prayer. He turned toward the hallway and, without thinking, opened the room no one had entered in years, his father's study. A small boy sits by a locked door, knees pulled to his chest. Rain taps the window like cruel fingers. On the other side of the door, his mother, bleeding, screaming. His father, in the garage, didn't even pause the engine. When the paramedics came, they found a dead woman and a boy with fingernail marks on the wood. He never spoke about that night, not once. It was buried under old tax returns and foundation files. A box Lana must have packed during the move, a keepsake box. He hadn't known she took it. Inside, ultrasound photos. A printed email chain with his assistant, questions Lana asked that were never answered. A ring box with the necklace he gave her the night she told him she was pregnant. And a letter. Not addressed to him, but written anyway. "If I die in labor, I want her to know I loved her from the moment I knew she was real. And I want you to know I would have forgiven you for everything, except leaving me alone to do this, except choosing silence when you knew I was scared. You don't get to call yourself a father if fear matters more than family." Damien dropped the letter. He felt like it had pierced through his suit, straight into the marrow. She was organizing Nova's closet when she saw the envelope, a name printed on the front, not hers. Victoria Voss, Damien's mother, the one no one talked about. Inside was an old photograph, 2 women standing on a balcony, Lana and a woman who looked eerily like her. Behind it, a note written in soft, fading ink. "You remind me of my girl. If he ever hurts you, you leave, you run, you save your baby. Promise me you'll survive him." Lana's knees buckled. The letter fluttered to the floor. Damien had been cold that day, silent. He'd missed the ultrasound. She sat at the kitchen island, his mother, Victoria, making tea. "He loves hard," she'd said, stirring honey into the cup. "But he never learned how. I tried to show him before I died." "You're not dying," Lana had said, nervous. Victoria only smiled, eyes sad. "Not today." The boardroom was sterile. A formal negotiation on custody, lawyers, paperwork, walls. Lana was early. So was Damien. No words passed at first, until Damien reached into his coat pocket and laid something on the table between them. The letter. Hers. The one he wasn't meant to read. Lana froze. "You weren't supposed to see that," she whispered. "I know," Damien said, voice raw. "But I did, and now I can't unsee it." She couldn't look at him. Instead, she whispered, "Then why did you still leave me outside?" He didn't speak for a long time. Then, "Because when I heard you screaming, I was 11 again and I froze, just like then." Lana's throat tightened. He wasn't making excuses. He was confessing. "You're not a boy anymore," she said gently. "I know. And I wasn't your mother." "I know that too." Lana touched the edge of the letter, her finger trembling. "I hated you," she admitted. "I wanted to ruin you." Damien met her eyes. "I think you still might." She almost laughed. Almost. Lana folds the letter, tucks it back into her purse. She doesn't forgive him. Not yet. But for the first time she understands him. And that might be the beginning of something. Not love. Not yet. But maybe understanding. It wasn't the courthouse this time. Not a lawyer's office or penthouse or judge's bench. It was a community center. Neutral ground, warm walls, soft lighting, a private mediator's meeting room, child-friendly. Nova sat in a car seat near the window, chewing on a soft rubber giraffe. Lana sat beside her, arms folded tight but not angry, just cautious. She didn't know why she'd agreed to see Damien without attorneys this time. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the memory of a man who used to bring her tulips just because. He entered like someone stepping into a dream they didn't believe they deserved to wake from. No suit, no tie. Just jeans, a grey sweater, and something in his eyes Lana hadn't seen since their first date. Hope and fear. "I didn't bring a lawyer," he said, holding up empty hands. Lana raised an eyebrow. "Wouldn't have mattered if you did." He smiled. Barely. Then looked down at Nova, and something in him shattered quietly. Nova. She was smaller than he imagined, with Lana's mouth and his eyes. She blinked at him like she'd already sized him up and wasn't impressed. "May I?" he asked softly. Lana didn't speak, just unbuckled the seat strap and picked Nova up. Damien extended his arms, unsure. Nova squirmed, but then settled, into his chest, into his arms, into a place he didn't know he'd been aching for. She expected it to hurt, expected to flinch or feel rage bubbling. Instead, it made her cry, silently, just one tear, because the way Damien looked at Nova wasn't cold, wasn't rehearsed, it was real. "I didn't know what I was missing until this moment," Damien whispered. "That's the worst part, I didn't even know." Lana nodded slowly. "That's how I felt, when I realized I'd survive without you." Nova sneezed mid-giggle, and Damien panicked, jumping like she'd exploded. Lana actually laughed for the first time since the birth. "You're hopeless," she muttered, wiping Nova's face. He chuckled, still cradling the baby like a porcelain sculpture. "I'm learning," he said. "You know, I Googled how to change a diaper last night." "You? Mr. Control Freak? YouTube Dad?" He grinned. "I got scared when I saw the word blowout." Lana smirked. "Just wait." They talked about baby bottles, sleep training, favorite lullabies. The mediator barely said a word. It was as if the air between them was doing all the negotiating. Lana shifted, crossing her legs, her tone softer now. "I don't trust you," she said simply. "I know. But Nova should know you, if you mean it." "I do," Damien said, eyes locked on hers. "More than I've ever meant anything." She believed him, or wanted to. "You know, you used to hum in your sleep," Lana said, breaking a long silence. Damien blinked. "I did?" "Yeah, some jazz thing. Drove me nuts." He smiled. "You never told me that," she shrugged. "I liked knowing you were next to me." Then looked away. "That's the part that hurts the most, knowing you were close, and still chose not to open the door." He nodded, face crumpling just slightly. "I chose fear," he said. "I thought if I opened that door I'd lose control. Turns out I lost everything by leaving it closed." Nova stirred in his arms. He instinctively rocked her. "I can't change what I did," he whispered. "But maybe I can change what comes next." Lana nods slowly. Her hand reaches, not for him, but for Nova, brushing the baby's hair while Damien holds her. Their hands briefly touch. No one pulls away. No one says a word. But the air feels warmer. A bridge, not built, but begun. Lana was changing Nova's onesie when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She let it ring. But it rang again and again. Finally she answered. "Hello?" "Mrs. Greer," said a woman's voice, clipped and formal. "You need to be aware your ex-husband's legal team filed an injunction this morning. They're challenging the financial freeze and petitioning for joint custody." The world slowed. "I'm sorry," Lana whispered, blinking. "That can't be right. He said, "I know, but it's already gone through the preliminary court clerk. There's movement." Lana's voice dropped. "Who signed the petition?" "Damien Voss." He sat in his boardroom, arms crossed, jaw set. "You did what?" he barked at his attorney. "We filed exactly as discussed last week, Damien. You wanted insurance if the freeze dragged. The joint custody clause? Standard. That was before—" He stopped, standing up so fast his chair toppled. His attorney blinked. "Before what?" Damien didn't answer. He stormed out of the building like a man on fire. She didn't scream when Damien showed up. She didn't slam the door, didn't even raise her voice. That made it worse. "So," she said, holding Nova against her chest, "was it all strategy? The mediator meeting, the holding her, was that your new PR team's idea?" "No," Damien said instantly. "Lana, I didn't know. You signed it. I thought it hadn't been submitted. It was from before we—" She stepped forward, fire barely hidden behind ice. "You signed it." Damien stood over her, shouting about control, about money, about trust. She sat on the edge of their bed, calm but shaking. "I'm not your enemy," she had whispered. "I don't know who you are anymore," he had snapped. "You stopped knowing me the second I got pregnant." That was the night he slept in his office, and she cried herself to sleep holding their unborn child. "You told me you wanted to change," she said now, barely above a whisper. "You let me believe you meant it. You let me feel safe again." "I do mean it," Damien said, voice rising in panic. "I told them not to file. You don't get to blame your lawyers. I didn't want this, but you signed the papers." She held Nova tighter, who began to fuss. Lana didn't flinch. "I let you hold her," she said, her voice cracking. "I let you in, and now you want to take her." "No," he breathed. But it was too late. He reached for Lana's arm gently. She stepped back. "Don't," she said, tears finally falling. "Don't touch me. Don't make promises. Don't lie with your eyes again." Damien stood frozen. He had never seen her like this. Not in labor, not in the hospital, not even when he left her outside. Because now, she was done. "You think money fixes this?" she spat. "You think a shared custody form is about rights?" She pointed at Nova. "She's not a trophy. She's a human being, and I won't let her grow up loving someone who disappears when she cries." Damien's throat tightened. "I was scared," he whispered again, pathetic even to his own ears. "I was in pain, and I was still there." Her eyes filled. "You weren't." He stood at the door for a moment longer, unsure if he should fight harder or respect the damage he caused. Then quietly, "I'm sorry." Lana didn't respond. She just closed the door, gently, like she was burying the last piece of a memory. Nova was asleep. The light from the hallway dimmed the room. Lana sat on the couch, numb. Her hand drifted to the necklace Damien once gave her. She took it off, left it on the table, then curled into herself and cried, not for him, not for the papers, but for what could have been. He smashed the tablet with the old hallway footage. He deleted the elevator security file. He walked into the nursery he'd had renovated in secret, just in case, and sat on the edge of the untouched crib. He buried his face in his hands and let himself feel the shame he'd spent a lifetime avoiding. 2 cribs, one in Lana's warm home, humming with soft lullabies, one in Damien's silent penthouse, pristine and unused. Both parents alone. Both hearts shattered. She hadn't texted him, hadn't looked at the news, barely left the condo. But the necklace still sat on the table untouched, the ring still hidden in a drawer. And every night when Nova cried, she couldn't stop thinking, he'll never know she makes that sound when she's scared. He'll never know she calms down when you hum that song he used to mumble in his sleep. He could have known, but he chose fear. Again. She hated that she still missed him. She hated that part of her. Still wondered if he'd show up. He had written and deleted the same message 16 times. Subject: "I'm sorry." Each time he tried, his hands trembled. His lawyers had retracted the motion. The financial freeze was lifted, with a signed agreement that he wouldn't touch a cent until Nova turned 18. He'd surrendered. But Lana didn't know that, because he hadn't told her. He was terrified of her silence, terrified that she'd already closed the door and locked it behind her. "You want to know the difference between being a man and pretending to be one?" the older Voss had asked, after slapping young Damien across the face. "A man doesn't apologize. He fixes." Damien had believed that lie for 30 years, and it had cost him everything. But this time, not an email. He writes a letter. Real paper, real pen, real ink. It's shaky, uneven, but honest. I broke the moment I saw you bleeding on that security feed. And instead of running to you, I ran from myself. I can't ask for forgiveness, I don't deserve it. But I do want to try, to be there, to learn her cries, to learn you. I'm not asking you to open the door, I'm asking you to let me knock. It was late. She expected the delivery service she forgot to cancel, expected groceries or flowers or another apology she'd ignore. But when she opened the door, it wasn't flowers. It wasn't groceries, it was a notebook, wrapped in brown paper, no name, no ribbon, just a note. Page 32. She stared at it for a long time. Nova fussed. Lana held her on one arm, opened the notebook with the other. Page 32. Damien's letter. I broke when I saw you bleeding. Instead of running to you, I ran from myself. Her voice caught. She pressed Nova closer. I'm not asking you to open the door. I'm asking you to let me knock. Lana sat on the edge of the couch. Everything in her trembled. But slowly. She got up, walked to the drawer, took out the necklace, clasped it around her neck again, then picked up her phone. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the park bench by the old bookshop. No lawyers, no words, just try. He hadn't slept, couldn't. He shaved even though his hands trembled, ironed his shirt himself, tied the same tie she'd bought him on their first anniversary. He left the penthouse at 9 a.m. because if she was going to offer him a moment of her life, he wasn't going to waste a second. Damien sits on the park bench. It's empty beside him, until a shadow casts over his shoulder. He looks up. It's Lana. No makeup. Hair in a loose bun. Nova in her arms. No words. She sits beside him, lets him look at the baby. Then, she lets him hold her. Damien held Nova like she was made of glass and gold. She blinked up at him, unfazed. Babies have no history, no context, only presence. He wanted to cry but didn't dare, afraid even tears might scare her off. Or worse, her mother. Lana sat beside him, quiet, protective, but not distant. They were a triangle of silence under a soft August sun. A family, not restored, but begun again. I saw you before I met you, he said, eyes still on Nova. At that art gala, you wore red. You stood under a light and looked like the only real thing in the room. Lana glanced sideways. You didn't come say hi. I was afraid you'd see through me. She nodded slowly. I would have. They both smiled, small but real. Why now, Damien? Why try now? He turned toward her, all mask gone. Because I know I may never deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one anyway. She looked down at Nova, chewing her fist contentedly. Lana exhaled. I don't want to do this halfway, she whispered. If we do this, it's not for show, not for headlines, not for guilt. Agreed. I need partnership. You have it. I need honesty. He nodded. Ask me anything. Why didn't you open the door? Damien's throat worked hard. He looked at Nova, then at Lana, then away. Because I didn't think I was worth being her father. Silence stretched. A soft breeze swept between them. Then, you are now, Lana said. The judge blinked, surprised. So, the plaintiff and respondent have agreed to forego a formal trial? Lana and Damien stood side by side. Yes, Your Honor, Lana said. We've reached our own terms. We're raising her together. A sunny backyard, white balloons, a cake shaped like a sun. Nova toddles through the grass, her curls bouncing, while Damien trails close behind, camera in hand. Lana watches from the porch, a cup of tea in her hand and peace in her heart. Damien joins her, shows her a photo. Nova's wide-eyed face, mid-laugh. She looks like you, he says. She sounds like you, Lana answers. They both pause. And then? Lana leans into him, just enough. He doesn't move, doesn't speak, but his arm slowly, gently, finds her shoulder. That moment returns, Lana's trembling voice outside the penthouse. Damien, please. But this time, he opens it. He holds her. He doesn't leave. Months later. Lana sits with a notebook in hand. Nova napping in her stroller. Damien arrives, holding 2 coffees. She hands him the notebook. Inside, a page titled, "If I Die in Labor." But beneath it now, a new note. "If I live, I want to live loved. Not perfectly, but honestly." Damien reads it slowly, looks up at her, and says only, "We will." The three of them walk away down the tree-lined path. Lana's hand slips into Damien's. Nova coos in her sleep. A family, not flawless, but finally free. Thank you so much for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will definitely love the next one. It's as interesting and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.